Welcome. Thank you for coming to this session on how the University of Washington adopted Tableau as its enterprise standard for data visualization. My name is Ann Wonderland. I am the Education and Communication Manager for our Enterprise Data Warehouse program and Enterprise Data and Analytics at the university.
Hello, my name is Bart Pietrzak. I am the BI architect for Enterprise Data and Analytics team at University of Washington.
So Bart and I are very pleased to be presenting here at the Tableau conference, not only because we are excited about Tableau, but we have the great joy of presenting right here in our own backyard. I chose this slide because there are two iconic images on it. One of them in the background is Mount Rainier. How many of you have gotten a chance to see Mount Rainier yet? A couple? Any who's not from Seattle? It was out in spades over the weekend, so if you came early to tour, I hope you got to see it. It is the tallest peak in the 48 contiguous states at 14,002 feet, so kind of a record setter. The other icon, of course, is the Seattle Space Needle. The Space Needle, you might not know, was actually built for the 1962 World's Fair here in Seattle. It wasn't always painted all white like it is today. When the World's Fair launched, it was actually what they called Galaxy Gold. I think if you look at that logo in the bottom right, it might be more Tableau orange. I'm not sure. Okay, Tableau point. 2 years ago, when we had our 50th anniversary of that World's Fair, the city painted it back to Galaxy Gold, and it stayed that way for 6 months. At the end of that 6 months, as part of the year-long celebration for the World's Fair, we had an online vote for the roof design that would be there for the next 6 months. And I'm sorry, that's a bit small, but we got to choose from 6 designs. And what you're seeing now, the reason I wanted to share this slide with you is that we put this slide together for a presentation we were making to senior management over 2 years ago when we were just at the beginning of our pilot phase around introducing a data visualization tool at the university. So this was just a fun way to share ways that you can look at data that aren't just in a matrix or in some bar chart. And the vote that you see there is the vote that my own team did for those designs. So those of you who are from Seattle, you don't get to speak right now. Those of you who are from away outside of Seattle, any guesses on which of those designs was the winner? Oh, just say something. Trees. Trees is the first thing I heard, and trees was the winner, and there it is. Along with Seattle's newest and perhaps our most ubiquitous icon, the 12th man flag.
I thought it was the Seattle Sounders.
That's the other presentation down the hall. Yeah, go Hawks. So anyway, back to World's Fairs. As I was putting this presentation together, I got kind of curious about World's Fairs, so I did a little research, made this visualization. Who knew World's Fairs were so popular? In 1911, there were 14 of them. I thought there could only be one a year. But what you can also see is the second World's Fair that was hosted in Seattle back in 1909. So we had our 100th anniversary of that just 5 years ago. That World's Fair, the Alaska Yukon Pacific Exposition, and that was here in the Northwest to feature commercial expansion into the Canadian Northwest, into Alaska, and around the Pacific Rim. And I chose this image to show you because it contains another icon, maybe not so much to broader Seattle, but certainly to the University of Washington, and that's the fountain that's in the middle. And I shared that because that World's Fair actually took place right on our own campus. The Vista that you see there with Mount Rainier in the distance is called Rainier Vista, and it was designed by the Olmsted firm, the people who also designed Central Park in New York City. So some famous effort on our behalf. This is sunrise in Seattle. So BuzzFeed last year named the University of Washington one of the, well, actually fourth among most scenic campuses in the United States. So I just picked a few images to show you. Even our football stadium has a view. Pretty cool. But not only are we a fantastically beautiful place to get an education, we're an excellent place to get an education, as illustrated by just some of the rankings I put in the top right of that slide. Last year, we educated over 53,000 students, and we conferred over 15,000 degrees. On the research front, we are a Tier 1 research university, and moreover, for many years in a row, we have received more federal research dollars than any other public institution in the country. Last year, almost $1.5 billion in federal research dollars, and second only to Johns Hopkins among all private and public institutions. We have a Center for Commercialization, and last year they launched 17 startups, and they had 80 more ventures in their pipeline, and we were awarded 90 patents. On the employment front, the University of Washington is the third largest employer in the state, only behind Boeing and Microsoft, and that drives almost 70,000 jobs. So in summary, we are an education, an innovation, and an economic powerhouse, not only for the city of Seattle, but for the state as a whole. So you can understand why having good data tools and good data is so important to us, so that we can know ourselves and we can make good decisions for our future. So what we want to do today is share our journey with you, how we came to adopt Tableau as our visualization tool, and we want to do it chronologically. So share with you our research phase, how we conducted our pilot, what we did in our post-pilot, and where we're going with Tableau. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Bart and I are going to jump back and forth. Bart will be sharing some of the more technical aspects of our decision making, as well as some of the higher level decision processes that happen. And I'll be sharing with you what we did on an education and adoption front. So, Bart.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So before we jumped into Tableau, let me just give you a little bit of context. So we are UDub IT. Our official name is Enterprise Data and Analytics Team, also known as the Enterprise Data Warehouse Team. So our main job on campus is really to bring the data from a lot of the systems that we have on campus, integrate this data to make it easier for consumption, and then deliver it through a lot of the BI platforms that we've had for some time and we are implementing currently. So we are a Microsoft shop. We use SQL Server to store and manage the data. We use T-SQL and integration services to do ETL. We use reporting services for reports and analysis services for cubes. As you can imagine, Excel and Access is widely used on campus. Not until recently, like Anne mentioned, about 2 years ago, we expanded this tool set with Tableau. And the way we always thought about Tableau was that we really did not want to replace any of the existing tools that we had at UDub. We wanted to expand and provide what we were lacking, which was really the visualization tool that became really essential for ad hoc analysis and ease of use. So this is basically EDW in numbers. We've got about 300 reports. We are sort of in the middle of transitioning from the operational world into the exciting world of ad hoc analysis and visualizations. So that for us means more cubes, more visualizations. We have about 6,300 users, and these users range anywhere from people running straight queries, running reports, extracting data into their systems, running the cubes, and so on and so forth. So why Tableau? I guess maybe the right question is why were we interested in anything like Tableau? Why did we need a tool like Tableau? About 2 years ago, we started looking into our BI products and services, and we realized that, we don't have that visualization tool that makes it easier for everybody else to use our data. So we wanted to have greater self-service. We wanted to foster collaboration. So collaboration for us means a lot of different things. We've got 3 campuses, 7 medical centers. We work with partners. We wanted to have a way to share data across the enterprise. We wanted to promote and continue what our leadership started to to want, which is data-driven culture. And we wanted to focus on enabling analysts, not developers. We did not want to purchase yet another tool for developers to develop new things. We wanted really analysts to be empowered and use the tool to start interacting with data. So this slide, it really represents the things that we did like about Tableau. The cost of ownership, existing user base on campus, compatibility with our existing Microsoft tools, very important for us, impersonation, collaboration, and also proximity to the vendor, which is only 1.5 miles away from campus. Right, Chris? I think, buying a tool is easy. How do we strategize around how do we want to use it? How do we want to adopt it? It's a much bigger question. So we really wanted to dive deeper and learn about Tableau. So a few things we've done is we interviewed our end users. We basically identify people who are accessing our data using Tableau. And we talked to them. What did they like? What they didn't like? We talked to other institutions. We did competitive analysis and cost analysis. Basically, how much would it take to produce something using other vendors or using our existing set of tools? And the most important ingredient for us was having that ideal project, the project that can drive the rollout of Tableau. How can we use Tableau and show the real value of the tool and be successful? So for the pilot phase, which lasted about 9 months, we purchased 20 desktop licenses and 94 named user licenses for the server. And we really had 4 goals behind the pilot: to make sure that the tool is in fact easy and we can grow the adoption around this tool, which means, yeah, the tool has to be easy to use. We wanted to make sure that we know what it takes to install, configure, and maintain Tableau Server, and whether our network can actually support it. And also, most importantly, building that adoption roadmap, building the training, education component for the long run. We handpicked people from 12 academic and administrative units to participate in the pilot. And 1 month after we started the pilot, we purchased additional number of licenses. And that number just kept on growing and growing towards the very end of the pilot even. And then at the end of the pilot, we realized that 94 server licenses is not enough. So for the pilot phase, I'm just going to call out what we really excluded, which was 3 things: data extracts, data governance, and then data reconciliation. For obvious reason, we did not want to tackle issues with data. We thought that if we start investigating the data, we will spend a lot more time than we needed to, and it was not necessary really for us to do that for the pilot. Data governance, as you can imagine. How many people we have from higher eds? Wow. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. This topic is very crucial for any EDW and data rollout NBI initiative. It's not that it was not important. It was very important. But we did not want to get into long discussions about data governance because, again, the goal of the pilot to make sure that this is the right tool for end users to use. Along the way, we did actually kept track of all the sensitive topics, which helped us actually, which we tackled in the post-pilot phase right away. And data extracts really to me, data extracts, data governance, they're very much related. Can we extract the data without the data governance? Well, not really. We can spend a lot of time talking about data extracts, but again, we did not want to tackle that in the pilot phase. And what was included, I already mentioned on the previous slides. This is, how many IT people do we have? Okay. So this is basically what we've used in terms of hardware for the pilots. Physical machine, a lot of RAM, and Tableau Server 7.0. Okay. So now let me shift a little bit back. I mentioned about the project that we use for the pilot. This project is called UDub Profiles. And it's really a set of institutional dashboards that allows you to see the student composition in terms of enrollments per quarter, number of degrees granted by University of Washington every year, retention and graduation rates, and so on, so forth. There are 23 dashboards. This is not the first time we started talking about a set of institutional dashboards. This sort of delivery method of these very, very generic numbers has been tackled for the last 20 years. This time around, we wanted to be successful and use specific features in Tableau to make it a successful project. The idea behind UDub Profiles really came out of the Office of Planning and Budgeting. And I'll be talking more about which portion of the project was sort of driven by Office of Planning and Budgeting and which portion of the project by UDub IT. It took 6 team members to implement these dashboards. Oh, I should say the solution. Because it only took 2 weeks for one person, dedicated half time with no Tableau experience to deliver these 23 dashboards. This is huge. This is very different from how we have been implementing BI reports at least at the University of Washington. And the typical process is we get the requirement documents from the business. We have a lot of back and forth. It takes weeks, even months, to get to a point where we feel like we almost have something we could start building with. So the IT basically starts to build it. It takes, again, a lot of weeks and even months to deliver that product. But once we deliver it, we often find out that, well, from the business, that this is not exactly what they've asked for. With this approach, we were very sure what we were delivering because of that business engagement that we had. So the strategy was pretty much very simple. Office of Planning and Budgeting was basically responsible for creating these dashboards and building out these dashboards. UDub IT was basically responsible for implementation and technical solution, both in terms of data and Tableau. So why this project was a lot different than what we've done in the past? Well, we specifically wanted to engage with the business and have the business actually interact with the data and start building. So not IT responsible for building these dashboards, but really the business, because they know what they want. So they gave us a list of about 180 data elements. These are all academic dashboards. We extracted this data from more than just one data source. And we extracted it into Tableau Extract. We pushed that extract into the server, and the Office of Planning and Budgeting started using this extract to build visualizations. this worked very well because of specific features in Tableau, like as simple as renaming a field, building hierarchies, creating calculations, using the groupings and the bins. All of a sudden, we, the IT, did not have to be there each and every time when that request was made. The business was, they could do it themselves. So the iteration basically was refining and building these visualization for a few weeks. Once the dashboards were created, we, the IT, basically took these extracts and we collapsed them. So we really looked at the fields that were used in these dashboards. We only kept the fields that were used in all the dashboards. That allowed us to really create a blueprint, which we could then hand it off to the ETL team and build out the true extract and build the structures necessary for the production rollout of these dashboards. So this is sort of how the architecture looked at the end. Basically, from extracts, we were able to build the ETL processes that extracted data from more than one data source. And we built these structures in EDW. Then again, we extracted this data for performance reasons. And we used yet another feature in Tableau, which came really handy, replace data source. How many people know this feature? So that way, we did not have to change the dashboards. We just had to change the data source. And to aid sort of the user experience, we created a portal called UDub Profiles portal. The portal was created really with the end user in mind. We wanted to make sure that people can access these dashboards in a very easy way. And I think I can hand off to Anne because she's going to show it to you.
Thanks, Bart. So I thought it was very timely this morning in the keynote that they were sharing what they were doing on Tableau Server to make the interaction with visualizations easier. I think we tackled some of those things and more in the portal that we built. So let me jump out. And now, sorry, I have to. There we go. So UDub Profiles portal is what you're looking at right now. And when somebody first logs in, there's a little help screen there. We've created a video that takes people on a tour, not only of the portal, but from here they jump out to the visualization. So just a little bit of educational information to help our end users understand the environment and the difference between this portal and then the Tableau server where they actually interact with the visualizations. I'm going to try this live, but I know all of us have probably been having connectivity issues, so if we aren't successful with this, I've got some screenshots I can show as well. So this is responsive design. If I shrunk this, these tiles would move themselves around. Each of these tiles represents the number of dashboards that you see listed in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to choose student enrollment. And when I do that, it redraws itself. And now I can see those 4 dashboards that are underneath there. So as you can see, I've marked this one as my favorite. It's also listed over here. So our users can make favorites just as they can on the Tableau server. And let's see what happens with that. Okay. All right, good. Didn't have to wait very long. So for each of our dashboards, very robust documentation was built. And you can see it represented by the tabs on the screen. An overview tab, an interpretation tab, how to use the filters, and definitions. And that's a shout out again to the data governance that is behind these particular visualizations. One of the features that I think is really cool is this user feedback tab. We happen to use user voice, if you're familiar with that technology behind it. And users can come here and make suggestions for enhancements to the visualizations as well as vote on other people's suggestions. So I don't want to stay here very long, but what I want to do is just leave you with that notion of one way of building adoption is to make it easy for your users. They could go to the Tableau server and see the visualizations, but they wouldn't have, well, we chose to put all of our documentation here rather than right in the visualization. So they can have this on one screen, the viz on the other screen. And it's been very well received.
One more thing. So the portal is really integrated with our single sign-on. So you log into our network with your NetID, and that's the only time you're required to log in.
Oh, sure.
All the interaction, that would require you to log in is actually handled through single sign-on in Tableau. So that was implemented in, I believe, 8.1, Tableau Server 8.1. And super easy to configure and make it work. But I hope your UDub, your IT group likes chocolate, because it's really all about working together with the IT department to make it all work. But when it works, it's great. It's very simple. There is no extra things that you have to do other than make the server use single sign-on.
Okay, I think that's our last foray into the web today. My apologies for the technical challenges there. So another key thing that we did during the pilot phase to help build awareness, really, of what Tableau can do. So I'm sure many of you have encountered this as well. You have people who've been analysts for years. They know how to sling their own data. They know how to build pivot tables, but they probably don't have a good sense of the interactivity of Tableau, about how they can click and make decisions and get insights in their data on the fly. So one of the things that, I guess one of the great luxuries that we had is that we had a user who had been working with Tableau for over 5 years when we were entering our pilot phase. And we were able to leverage him to make presentations to key stakeholders and just to the general analyst population around the university, so they could understand the power of data visualization and clicking as fast as you can think. Oh, goodness. All right. So I'm going to jump now to education and what we did around that during the pilot phase. We made the decision to go ahead and hire Tableau for those original 15 licenses that Bart mentioned. And we made a custom class, a 3-day class, that combined both basic and advanced education for those licensees. We wanted to get them out of the gate running. I'd say a lesson learned in that, as we got more and more people involved in the pilot and more people who were wanting training, is that in the second round of training that we engaged with Tableau on, we decided to just invest in the 2-day training. Hopefully you're all familiar with the online training that Tableau offers, and we decided that we would rely on their advanced training there to fulfill that need. Now, community building. It's one thing to teach people. It's another thing to get them together, keep momentum going, build that engagement. So it was very important to us to not let our work with our user base, with our, I'm going to call them developers, Bart called them analysts, but the people who are building visualizations, we wanted to keep them going and help build that notion of community on our campus. So here you see just a list of things about why we felt that community was important. So what did we do to build community? We did 2 things during the pilot phase. We started a Tableau user group, and that user group met in person actually every single week, and we had quite good turnout for that. We had a variety of topics and formats that we worked through during our Tableau phase, during our pilot phase. We got great suggestions from Tableau, and in fact, because of that proximity, we also got great support from Tableau. Sometimes they were able to come and attend our TUG sessions. And one thing that has happened recently is that we've even become a bit of a training ground for some of their consultants who are learning how to work interactively with the customers. So great synergy there. We also created an online presence for our Tableau user group. And these 2 screenshots, these are just screenshots from that online presence. We use the university's learning management system called Canvas. Do you guys, how many of you have a learning management system online? So I'll talk more about that and how we're using it during our post-pilot phase, but I strongly encourage that as well. It was very helpful and a great place for people to engage with each other. That's the discussion board that you see on the right. We can use it for announcements and so forth. So I'll turn it back over to Bart for our post-pilot phase.
So post-pilot phase, at the end of July of last year, we already knew that our project, UDub Profiles, is already in the UAT phase. We knew that there is a great number of people buying Tableau Desktop, we had no choice. We had to move forward. So we sort of came together and said, what do we need to do in order to support the post-pilot phase? We knew that we need to have a dedicated Tableau administrator to get this off the ground. We said that basically anybody using Tableau Server on campus does not have to pay anything. So people do purchase Tableau Desktop, but Tableau Server is free. We needed to do a lot more around the permissions and security for the server. We needed to expand the hardware and, again, emphasize the adoption, education, and training during the post-pilot phase. We purchased 175 desktop licenses and 12 core Tableau Server hardware license. We expanded the hardware to 2 physical box and the virtual machine for the gateway. And that this sort of setup mimics the high availability setup recommended by Tableau. I want to say we don't use sites. There's one instance where actually we do use sites, but in general we do not use sites. We use projects. So each and every unit, college, group, has a project space on Tableau Server. We came up with 3 groups, basically viewers, editors, and publishers. Viewers are the people who basically view dashboards on Tableau Server. They cannot edit, they cannot publish. All they can do is view, interact, so on and so forth. Editors are the people basically who own Tableau Desktop. They can download the dashboards and they can change it, but they cannot publish. And then publishers sort of are the Uber users. They can download, publish, view, and as you can imagine, this is all about having the right people interact with the server. All the permissions are managed by Tableau administrator, and a lot of what he did, he basically automated a lot of that project provisioning and assigning permissions and so on and so forth. So there's very little manual work for us. We decided to roll out 2 instances of Tableau. We called the first one Transitional, which you might call it a dev or test environment, and the Enterprise instance. The difference are really in terms of how long the dashboard live on the Transitional Server versus Enterprise, who can publish, and what are the processes around data governance for publishing those. To give you a little bit more visual taste around the Transitional Server, let's say you created your dashboards for your department. You would have a publisher assigned to your group, which that person would basically publish these visualization to the project created on the server so that everybody on campus can see it. I say everybody, but we do have options. We can control the permissions and who can see what within Tableau. On the other hand, the Enterprise instance is a little bit different. So when you're ready to publish your visualization to the Enterprise server, you basically tell us. So we are sort of the gatekeepers to make sure that when you roll out something to Enterprise, we want to make sure that nobody, that people accessing it from outside of your group will see it, that all the data sources exist and have the right sort of set of permissions to access the data. So we basically are the gatekeepers of that environment. So I'll turn back to Anne so she can talk about building adoption.
So as you can see from the icons on the screen, we took a many-pronged approach to how we were going to build adoption, and for our two user bases, people who were going to interact with the visualization, so the end users, and then also our developer group. So I'll step through what we did on each of these. Around education, because we expected Tableau to grow in popularity and probably do so fairly quickly, we decided to develop our own internal training. So our trainers in the back of the room, hi Deanie. We sent Deanie to Tableau's Train the Trainer program, and out of those efforts, I have my bullet points backwards. Anyway, I'll get to the classes we developed in a minute. The other thing I wanted to mention that we made the investment to put Tableau licenses in our IT training room. So we have a dedicated training room for Tableau hands-on training, which is a fantastic resource. I feel very fortunate that we were able to do that. So around our classroom offerings, this is what we offered initially. You see three different classes there and the different audiences that we were targeting. So our hands-on introduction class was really meant for anybody in the university, any faculty and staff. We've actually had students who have come to some of our trainings, but we don't actively promote this among students. We have a one-day desktop fundamentals that teaches the basics, and that's geared toward our new licensees. And then we also developed a UDub Profiles workshop, which was geared toward our decision makers and people who would be interacting with UDub Profiles and just learning their way around the Tableau interface and getting a sense of how to click through and do their own analysis using visualizations. This is just a quick viz that shows what registration numbers have been since we started offering these classes in February. Pretty popular with the exception of that one on the right, that UDub Profiles workshop. And what we learned in a big hurry was that decision makers weren't really very keen on coming to sit in a workshop and go to school, as it were. So we quickly retired that class in the classroom form, and we started to take it into the field in outreach form, and I'll share more about that in a minute. Another thing we did is we leveraged UDub's online calendaring system, which has a built-in registration module. So we really could step out of the engagement with users coming to our class. They could just click on the calendar, select the class, and self-enroll and self-unenroll. So a great time saver for us. Around communication, we created a couple of email addresses, so you might consider putting together a mailman group for yours. And then we also created a support email, tableau@uw.edu, and we get a whole bunch of support questions in through that. And in the middle, which I'll talk about more in a minute, geared for our developer group, we have a discussion board for them. So what did we do around awareness? And this is, again, to our end user population. Well, Bart mentioned we are part of IT at the university, and it's a big organization. We have about 500 people, and among those people is a communication arm, and they have regular communications that get sent across the university and to targeted audiences. So we worked with them and work with them on a regular basis to send a variety of communications. Around UDub Profiles, we had both a campus-wide communication, and we also had an executive brief that they helped us with. This was really key. So around stakeholder and sponsorship, I feel very fortunate again that we had endorsements from the highest level of the university, and in this brief that went out around UDub Profiles, the president and the provost spoke to that and spoke to how they are using that as their source of information now for basic student information. And then just a quick screenshot of our website. This is for people who want to get their hands wet with Tableau. There's a bunch of tabs there that help them interact with Tableau, tell them how to get licenses, where to get training, and so forth. So a variety of ways that we're getting the message out. I just wanted to make a quick mention of the Tableau for Students and Tableau for Teaching program, because that was one of the things you might have caught on the previous slide that we wanted to emphasize. Data science, the University of Washington is a leader in data science education. So it was very important to us to make sure that this resource, so Tableau for Students, free license for a year for Tableau Desktop, and Tableau for Teaching is also free for instructors who are teaching using Tableau. And right now, because of these outreach efforts and because of the promotion that the teachers are doing in the classroom, the University of Washington is the world leader in Tableau for Students and Tableau for Teaching activity. So here's how we actually promoted that, aside from our communications that went out. The university has a web page that lists software that's available to faculty and staff and students. So we also promoted Tableau's offering there. So just a couple quick snapshots of some of those communications that we sent. The one that you see on the left is the one that comes out of our IT group. Our HR group also, the university's wide HR group sends a monthly email out about all sorts of benefit options, and so we leverage them as well, and that's what you see on the right. The one that you see on the bottom left was that awareness campaign, which we do those things fairly regularly. That one happened to be about the introduction of 8.2, and what was really important, and I'm sure for all of you in higher ed, the rollout of Tableau on Mac, and so we sent a university-wide announcement about that. So what impact do these marketing messages have? Well, this is a viz of our class enrollments, and every spike that you see in there is because of an email that went out around campus. So what we learned from that is that, yeah, we get people coming to register on a regular basis, but it's really important to spread the news that these things are available. Now, back to community, and what did we do for our Tableau desktop users? We carried forward our Tableau user group that we started out in our pilot phase. We now meet on a every other week basis. We use our online Canvas tool, and I have just a screenshot of that I want to show you. I won't take you through another online tour and drop my microphone. And you probably can't see this very well. I apologize for that. But there's several icons there that guide new Tableau user group members for where they can get information, how they can post files, how they can collaborate with each other, what's our meeting schedule, what the meeting agenda topics are, and there's even a conferencing tab in there. So we use that, and people can attend from around the campus without having to leave their desks. So if you've got a tool like that, give it a go, because it's been very valuable for us. I mentioned that UDub Profiles class didn't turn out so well, and so instead we started taking our show on the road, and we partnered with our friends in the Office of Planning and Budgeting to go deliver these outreach sessions. They're anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, and we either allow them to log in and work with us in a hands-on basis, or simply conduct a demo and show them their way around Tableau Server and then their way around the visualizations. And what you can see on the left is just a list of some of the organizations with whom we partnered. And the one that I've highlighted in orange is just a quote that I wanted to share from our divisional dean from social sciences. In short, it says that in the 32 years she's been at the university, she's never had a data resource like these UDub profiles, these data visualizations. And if anybody threatens our funding, she'll take a stand to get even more funding for us, which is the best news in higher ed, I'm sure you know. I won't do a demo on this either, but so you saw earlier the UDub Profiles portal, all the tiles that move around. We have, actually this is sort of the parent portal, if you will. So UDub Profiles portal is focused on just those UDub Profiles visualizations, but we have more visualizations than that now. You might remember those were the initial visualizations we published. We have others. So we have another portal that we just call the Business Intelligence Portal, and it's the university's central catalog of all of our business intelligence offerings. So if you look along the top, you'll see we have reports, vizzes, cubes, and so forth there. So users can come to one place. They don't need to know 3 different servers to go to. They can search across all of our BI and find whatever it is they're looking for, including our visualizations. So lots of different things we've done to help build awareness and adoption. So I'll turn it back to Bart for our lessons learned.
Thank you, Anne. So how we view Tableau at UDub after almost a couple of years now being up and running. So we started to see Tableau as a catalyst for change. For example, Tableau was sort of triggered a lot of the discussions around migrating applications to our one NetID domain. As you can imagine, we have a lot of different domains. That sort of poses a lot of issues when you want to implement something like impersonation. So Tableau was one of the first applications then brought everybody from different groups to talk about what it would take to migrate these applications, not only applications, but also users and databases over to one common NetID domain. As I mentioned, in the post-pilot phase, we started tackling the data governance topics. Data extracts and how to treat extracts from local data sources. What does it mean to all of a sudden be able to build visualization based on departmental data, and how we can actually support it. Data aggregation. Is it okay to expose sensitive data to a public website, or even a website within the University of Washington? As I mentioned and described to you, Tableau really changed how we think about implementing new BI deliverables. Much shorter development cycle, making sure that, yes, we are building something that our end user or our business partner will like, because they are very much engaged from the very beginning. What's next? Currently we're facing, we got a lot of requests for external facing instance of Tableau. So being able to get your visualization and expose that visualization onto a public website, so that not only people from within university can see your visualization, but other partners, your peers, your donors, future students, press, and so on and so forth. We have been seeing a lot of engagement from different groups. Advancement, for example, totally changes how they develop reports for their end users. School of Medicine and graduate school, we just see a very common trend. Everybody wants to use Tableau to implement their visualization because it's much easier and less expensive for them. Education and outreach, so emphasizing and continuing all the great work that we've done in terms of education and outreach. And we're building what we call BI Developer Portal, which will enable end users to publish visualizations themselves. They will be able to provide metadata for these visualizations, so that we completely will sit back and make sure that Tableau Server actually is up and running. So our success, to sort of wrap it up, stakeholders and sponsors. I mean, not enough can be said about how important it is to get the support from stakeholders and sponsors. Collaboration with business on projects like UDub Profiles. High visibility projects that bring value to your institution. Taking one step at a time, baby steps. Engaging with users on many different levels. Building the community training and education component, and focusing on goals, not on politics. One more bullet for being successful is actually engaging with Tableau. A tremendous amount of support that we got from Tableau, anywhere from questions, technical questions, rollout questions, licensing questions. Great help. Tableau is always happy to help. So thank you guys for supporting us. So we know we covered a lot, but we didn't cover a lot of the things that we did in the past years. So we will leave the floor for questions. These are the names sort of that you might follow up if you have more questions.
Sure, yeah.
Kathy Bader from Duke. And you mentioned in several slides that you were satisfied with your security model.
So the question is how satisfied we are with security. So what I didn't mention is that there's what we call data access control layer on top of our EDW, which basically is a role-based permission layer that allows you to query the data that you can see based on the role you are assigned to. So why this was very critical for us when we were looking into tools like Tableau. Tableau was one of the few vendors, or I think maybe the vendor, that could support impersonation. So whoever logs into Tableau and either creates or view data, those credentials are actually passed through impersonation all the way to the database, and the query for that visualization returns the data that that person can see. So this can pose issues like, well, what if there's a visualization that has a protected column? Well, in that case, we will return the column. The visualization will render without an error, but there will be no data. So we were lucky enough to actually have that already in place before we decided on purchasing Tableau.
So what was the permissions layer that you put on top of it?
We called it Data Access Control Layer, DAC, which is a role-based homegrown.
Okay.
Does that restrict you to using just the database for your bringing back your records as opposed to having an extract to work with?
So let me rephrase the question. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Trying to figure out if you can still use that security level that you were talking about against an extract.
Okay, so can we leverage the same security for extracts? No. Because, well, so what we are looking into is actually using Active Directory, which basically defines the roles and people who belong to those roles, and then replicate it making those groups in Tableau. So yet another great feature of Tableau is that we can hook up to Active Directory. So we don't have to create additional groups in Tableau. We can leverage existing groups and build extracts that are specific for each and every group. So for example, our groups are such that academic advisor, right, can see student data. Payroll analyst can see financial data. We would replicate via AD in Tableau and give permissions to the data extracts based on that group. If you have more questions around this, I'm happy to talk. But yeah, AD replicating, well, not really replicating, but using the AD groups to give access to extracts. Yes?
Hi, Karen Schill from Slovene. I just had a question about how people access the data visualizations that you did. So I saw they go into the portal, and that I assume you just built on your own, and you have that really cool page that showed all the information, and a lot of people gave feedback, which I thought was great. So if I were to click on the image, would that bring it into the Tableau server where I'd have to log in, or did you already have that authentication in place for their login into the portal?
Yeah, so the question, okay.
My second question is kind of related to that, is do you let people log in directly to Tableau server? Like, Tableau, or do you have to always...
So let me take the first question. The question is what sort of access we have on the portal to expose this visualization. So there are two components, right? We publish to Tableau server, so all visualizations are on Tableau server. We built the portal to be really a visual shell around visualizations. So when Anne was clicking on the tiles, there was a view button. The view button would literally take you to the server and render that visualization in your browser window. So when you click on that view button, we use single sign-on to basically get the credentials from you and make sure that you're already logged in. If you're not logged in, then we'll ask you to log in, yes. but it's all sort of very easy for end user to use because they don't have to log many times. So the shell uses the Tableau server to expose these dashboards in a slightly different way. The second question was, how do we give access to our users to Tableau server? The answer is yes. So this would be one of the viewer groups that would allow you to access this visualization either through the portal or directly through the Tableau server. So if you are sort of maybe more advanced users, you could operate strictly from within Tableau server. You know, if you're an executive or dean or the president or provost, we want to make sure they don't spend time looking for a list of visualizations. So we wanted to make it very easy, and that's why we built the portal. Thank you. I don't know, okay?
As part of the rollout, did you have any, did your key users have any issues distinguishing what was a dashboard versus what was a report? And how did you communicate that difference to them? And were there any, I saw that you're using SSRS for reporting. Were there any cases where you tried to move any of those reports to Tableau?
Okay, so the question is around reporting services over to Tableau. That was the last question.
Yeah, I think primarily it's just your user. What were your user expectations when you were rolling
Yeah.
this out? How did you differentiate what was going to be a report versus what was going to be a dashboard?
So I think we sort of leave that up to each and every group. So each group sort of can decide on what they consider to be a visualization, a dashboard, a view, or a workbook. So, you know, we didn't have that confusion, I guess. I cannot think of any instance where somebody would approach us and said, well, what is a report or a view or a visualization? I think because we've been sort of trying always to emphasize the easy access, so like the portal points to dashboard, right? We don't expose the views that are part of that dashboard. But that's not to say that you couldn't or you shouldn't. Other dashboards actually do have different tabs, so you can go and you know, have a view that makes up that workbook, which makes up that dashboard.
I could add to that from the end user perspective, since that's the people that I engage with on a regular basis. We have a class we teach called EDW 101, and so in there we distinguish between those various delivery mechanisms. I think I would echo what Bart said, that there hasn't been a lot of confusion around that so far. Maybe that will happen as we get more vises out there that cover more subject areas, because right now they're all student-based, right, versus finance and HR and so forth. But our reports, we don't have reports really that are visual either. Most of them just deliver a matrix of information, a spreadsheet of information basically. So from just a consumption standpoint, it's quite obvious to a user which thing they're looking at today.
I think what I also add is that we are just looking at a number of reports that we implemented in the past, yes. We just migrated all our environments into new domain, new infrastructure, and the question came up, well, do we need to maintain these reports? Can we leverage tools like Tableau to actually replace these reports, but even give more to people to have a way to see what is the usage of EDW, our reports? So these reports were really about usage. Can we give them a Tableau extract or build visualizations that they can use, and these visualizations will be much more interactive than a straight report. There was a question. Yeah, I think the gentleman. So the question is, who gets to be a viewer? Anybody who wants to view the visualization.
Not students.
Well, yeah, exactly. So not students. So faculty, staff, and yeah, faculty and staff. There was a lady there. Yes.
You mentioned that you did a total cost of ownership analysis and included your original BI tools, the cost of the data vision tools. Can you talk a little bit about what you quantified and how you looked at that?
Yeah, so the question is, what did we use to quantify the cost of development using our existing tool set versus Tableau? So we looked into, how long does it take to implement a report? How many resources do we need to use? From experience, developing reports, even moderately complex report can take, few weeks, and then to maintain it, what is the maintenance cost over time? We sort of compared that within Tableau. We used, there was a couple of publications that came out 2 years ago comparing Tableau versus tools like Spotfire and ClickView. And we sort of used that also to say, how long does it take to produce a report or visualization? What's the ramp-up time for a developer to learn the tool, and how fast can they produce a report? So that's basically what we used. I think what really was the decisive factor was how long it took for one person to develop 23 dashboards. That was it basically answered the question for us. We would never be able to build 23 reports in a matter of 2 weeks, even if we had the data. Go ahead.
Sorry, so for viewers, you said students and public, so you don't have any kind of public platform developed using Tableau for your university?
Yeah, so do we have a public-facing, like a fact sheet? So Office of Planning and Budgeting always had the fact sheets in a PDF. Just recently, that team also developed public-facing Tableau dashboards, which will be available to access for anybody outside of UDub network. So yes. Okay, over there.
I work at Stanford. We don't have, at the graduate school of business, we don't have a data warehouse. So we use data from
Ouch.
Oracle and MS SQL and Salesforce. So do you think we're crazy if we just go ahead and go use Tableau and pull in different sources, or do we need to go for the data warehouse? Because some of the numbers we want to get out are, ad hoc, right? Not one day old data. They need up-to-date numbers kind of thing. So what would you recommend?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Just go for it.
So I mean, so Michael, I think Michael.
Multiple data blending inside Tableau and
So the answer is yes. I mean, it's nice to have EDW because that gives you consistency, one place for the data that you need. But that's not to say you should not use Tableau if you don't have EDW. I think Michael Visaya from Advancement can talk more like how they were able to leverage their own data, which is not in EDW, to develop impressive amount of work using Tableau. So I mean, it all depends on your long-term strategy and what your leadership is willing to agree to. What the EDW vision for your institution. But like I said, I don't think it's a must. There have been a lot of higher eds who have been really successful at developing impressive dashboards, driving sort of this ad hoc environment, giving a lot of visibility to their units, and they don't have EDW. But it's again, I think if the value is in consistency. But yeah.
Can you confirm the workbook one more time? You have your users build workbooks or data used within the transitional server, and then those eventually have their being incubated and finalized. In that context, they're transitioned into the enterprise data warehouse
Yes.
in preparation for publishing through
Yeah, so we,
Question.
So you have a sandbox that just basically goes off, builds the extract as, a model, and then you use that model in order to build out whatever you need to do in your EDW for promotion out to a greater group of consumers.
yes, so I guess, well, the question is, what process do we use to promote visualizations to the enterprise server? So the process is simple, in my opinion. Basically, we hash out all the details on the transitional server. If the visualization uses extracts and the EDW team sees a value of building out and expanding EDW because there's some valuable structures that would provide more value to the whole campus, then yes, we would build it out in EDW and then push it out to production.
And then what rules or guidance can you offer around helping people identify that critical mass? At what point do you get to understand that particular structure or construct should be promoted through EDW?
It's tricky, so that's what we're trying to resolve. It's yeah, definitely.
I'm just looking at time. Let's take one more question. Sir, you had one?
So the question is, what's the responsibility for Tableau admin? Yeah, and.
Yeah, so in my role, but I will tell you, so I'm responsible, we're a two-person team responsible for EDW education for the entire university in Tableau, and the TUG is just one part of what we do. So it's just, like Bart said earlier, it's baby steps. I just realized I didn't say the question. So who manages the Tableau, who administers the server, who administers the Tableau user group was the question. So we have that FTE, half-time FTE now, who actually does the technical administration, and mainly I do the TUG administration. But it is just actually not even a very big part of our job. We try to get input from our members on what they want to see, and we've been at it for a while now. So I usually spend maybe a couple hours every other week posting the agendas and so forth. But because we have that online interface, people just carry on their own, posting discussion threads. Many of us have, well, all of us actually have permission to post announcements. So it's fairly organic.
Tableau admin administers the server, so permissions, backups, upgrades, and so on and so forth. Yes, correct.
So one more?
Is your portal SharePoint?
No, custom ASP.NET using MVC.
And as far as the security in your sandbox, is it not going through your EDW role-based security?
It does, yes.
So
Yes.
there's still,
Yes.
got the secure environment.
Yes, it's in that setup. Yes, they're very much the same. Yeah.
And will the slides be available?
Yeah, they're recording every session in the conference, and I understand they'll be available in about 2 weeks. We have business cards somewhere over there if you like.
Thank you.